All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we're getting ready to speak about strategic partnerships with my good friend, Dr. Z, all the way from Florida, both of us Floridians. And we're going to talk about not only our strategic partnership, but also about the importance around strategic partnerships and how to develop those. So I hope that you are all getting seated in or you're somewhere where you can enjoy this live. Miriam, thank you for joining me today as we're going to speak about some great announcement for both of our companies, but more importantly about the importance around strategic partnership. But before we get into that conversation, let the audience know a little bit about you and we'll get into it.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. This is, a conversation between friends and now partners. This makes so much sense now. Well, I am a physician, triple board certified in internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine. I am originally from Peru, where I worked for 10 years for the Navy as a doctor. And I came to this country 13 years ago to rebuild myself, to start from zero, and to become a doctor in this country, but also to follow the dream that I have, and I believe that both of us, we share, that is to support our community, to support those individuals that want to achieve their dreams and that want to become leaders, happy, healthy leaders in our communities, in our society. So that's about me.
All right. Well, there's a couple of people getting in there already. Jacobo, Michael saying hello, Dr. Z, and Jenny. So thank you for joining us as we're discussing this topic. I tell you, Dr. Z, we had an adventure together, the medical adventure, where I became your client, right? Your patient. And so I want to talk a little bit about that as we get into it. So, folks, if you're listening in, one of the key things about strategic partnerships is trust. That is probably one of the most important things, probably in any relationship, if you ask me. But when you're talking about the execution of two companies coming together to do one thing or support each other in that one thing, it's important for you to understand. And I get these things popping up. It's important for you to understand that if there is no trust, there is no way to go down a road of strategic partnership. So I'm going to give you my story, my experience with Dr. Z, and how that all came about. And then we'll get into some of the things that she does specifically in her practice. And then we'll rope in some of the fundamentals that are important for strategic partnership. So, Dr. Z, she mentions that she was a doctor at a naval station over in Peru. Now, for those of you that have not followed me or have followed her and have witnessed some of the previous lives that we've done together, here's the story. I, obviously, military, U.S. Navy, I have a 4-month deployment to Peru. And so here I am, I'm doing hydrographic surveys for the military as a meteorologist, oceanographer, and I am stationed and co-stationed with the Navy in Peru, in Callao. And so here comes LinkedIn. I meet this doctor, Hispanic. I'm like, wow, that's great. And then we get in a conversation. I said, hey, yada, yada, yada. She said, hey, you're the Navy. I work for the Navy in Peru. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, Peru's pretty long, right? So you could have it anywhere. She said, over there in Callao. And I'm like, no way. I spent 4 months working with the Navy, the hydrographic service out there in Peru. And she's on the same base at the same time at the hospital or the clinic, and I'm running around the base with a boat. And so how do you, there's two people, 8 billion now counting on Earth and more. And these two individuals are on the same base from different countries working with the Navy at the same time. And so, the world is not as big as we seem.
No. And I believe that this is something that may be hopefully inspiring for many others, right? Relationships may start randomly here and there, but if you don't network in this way that I don't really like, that is fast and furious, right?
Mm.
But if you network with intention, if you create relationships and friendships through LinkedIn or any other system that you are using for networking, what you will discover is that you are not just doing a transactional relationship and changing phones or cards, but really you are building friendships that could help you grow and that could allow you to help others to grow. So think about that working with something that, or in a modality that is deeper, and where you think about the relationship first and the outcomes as just as the result of this beautiful relationship that you are building with someone that is amazing, that is in front of you, and that will become part of your life and part of your family in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I was blown away that could happen. Now, I have had instances where I'm all the way in Hong Kong, in Kowloon Bay, and my name is, yelled from the other side of the center, and I'm like, what? Who knows me in Hong
In
Kong?
Hong Kong.
But there was another Navy person that I actually had the opportunity to work with, and we were at the same place at the same time. But I say all of that to kind of echo what you just said, Dr. Z, which is relationship. Uh, I just spoke with a mentee. I mean, I really, this morning, I spent 2.5 hours with him at a coffee shop. This mentee is 74 years old.
I love that.
And
Absolutely.
and it goes to, because my mentor model is one below, one at, one above, and one at your dream. There's a 4-stage model that I use, right? But in any case, I'm the one below for him, right? But it's beautiful because I keep him attached to the things that are actually happening. So I say that because of relationship. Uh, about 2 months ago, I woke up and the very first thought in my head was this: I made you for relationship. And I'm a faith-based guy, so obviously to me, that was the Lord telling me a specific message before I got too busy. Hey, before you get too busy, let me tell you, I made you for relationship. And so obviously I wrote that down on my pad, because I have a pad and my Bible next to me, and I write on it, especially when thoughts like that come to me. And what occurred to me throughout, as I started realizing what I just heard, was we put a lot of emphasis in the activities around relationship, but we don't focus on the fact that it's the relationship that
Absolutely.
matters. And so, to your point, Dr. Z, when you build a relationship, you allow the opportunity for future collaboration or future events, or you say, family. Well,
Family, yeah.
my family was down there near you, and we was almost about to meet. We couldn't coordinate it, and that's fine. But that's the thing. Those relationships, whether you build them on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever it is, they have this secret thing called possibility. And possibility comes in different flavors and different ways and different things that could happen. So let me go back to my experience as a patient, right? So Dr. Z is getting ready to go on this endeavor of hers, right? Going from a hospital setting, and I'm going to let you elaborate on this piece, but a hospital setting, and here I got wind of it, right? I got wind of it. And we decided to have that patient doctor relationship versus a just a common day acquaintance relationship. And because I believed in what she was doing, I know it was something that I was looking for. She is going to expound on that here shortly. And I said, hey, let's do this thing. And I would be willing to get in there as a patient. And so my experience from the patient perspective is what allowed me as a business owner to want to have that same experience that I had to afford it to my clients as a way of developing them as leaders, but from the holistic medical standpoint. So here we are. Here we are in a strategic partnership based on an initial contact, finding similarities in our life, and then going into a business venture in terms of client, and now partners. And it's amazing how that happened. Uh, but I'm going to let Dr. Z take over now and explain how she transitioned, really why you transitioned to the medical, and then your practice, what you're doing now, and then we'll talk about the actual partnership after that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this. I believe that it gives a heart to a situation, right? We can talk about partnerships and business in a way that is very cold. That's not my style in any way. And I believe that something that put us together is common values and common vision and mission, right? And that is fundamental when you have two individuals that dream with something similar, with that have common values and that want to put egos on the side and actually act by heart and by passion. I feel like that's when you actually create a successful partnership and friendship too. So yes, you are right. I used to practice for 20 years in the medical system, initially in Peru, then here. I have never been the typical doctor that can see his patient in 15 minutes or that will be checking the heart or the kidney or the labs as separate problems. I always thought, and I was educated in that way in Peru by my mentors, and then here by my mentors in geriatrics, that a patient is a patient, is a human, and everything that happens around that human, and it's not only his body but also his mental aspects, their emotional aspects, the religious, cultural aspects, social aspects in general, will affect their health. And their quality of life. So when I left the healthcare system, the established healthcare system, to create my own healthcare system, that is my virtual clinic that now is open to serve everybody in Florida and Texas now also, the idea was to offer that type of care to my patients, where they have a concierge style doctor that is available for them, that will answer the phone by I answer my own phone. I am open to receive text from my patients and interact with them directly, where appointments are 60 minutes. And when I don't see the organs of my patients or their concerns in a way that is separated, but where I consider this comprehensive approach as the best way to actually have good outcomes, I decided to include also aspects of modern medicine, so DNA testing and functional assessment, remote monitoring, of course, the virtual aspect of it, and to involve other professionals that I have been collaborating with that will do mindfulness training or nutritional coaching to really provide this 360 approach to not only health but really well-being and quality of life. And I just to add an extra sentence, I believe that our collaboration today takes both of us to a different level, because now we are offering these individuals that are already working on themselves, that want to achieve their dreams in the professional life, to have also access to this mental and physical well-being that will allow them to keep going in this search for success, without compromising their health, their well-being, their, and suffer from burnout and or other negative outcomes that are associated to overdoing things without having mechanisms to cope and to keep the health as a priority.
Well, as a person, professional that has been through what you are offering, I'm telling telling the audience that I know how to train leaders to get to the point where they can push themselves out of the way and then start thinking a certain way, strategically, tactically, operationally, and all these other things. But you could have all of that and be laying in a hospital bed, and it's for nothing. I'm telling you right now, right? So as a leadership developer that can train people, I require them to be able to use that in the future. But if you are bedridden, ill-ridden, you are, how we say, you're at your wit's end, you're overburned or burned out, and all these other things that we usually do not address in leadership development. And the reason why I thought, well, first of all, as a client, right, as a patient, I know firsthand the effectiveness of your practice, the effectiveness of the three prong approach that you have. You got you as a medical, and let me tell you about this DNA thing. It'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind to know more about you from a perspective of this thing called DNA. So that's alone. We could probably talk about that later.
That was scary. That was scary because he was telling me one story that for him was true, and the DNA was saying something very different. The story about his cravings and stuff like that, and I got so nervous. How do I tell him that the DNA maybe is not correctly describing the situation? Maybe they mess up the result. And we got together that day, and I was so nervous that day. And when we start to go through the tests and the results, we discovered that the DNA was right, and that Enrique was really understanding well-being and his diet in a very different way, right, Enrique? We
Right.
discovered your cravings, your healthy cravings, and that was a revelation, right? It was like the moment of aha for you, and it was a moment of aha for me too, right? It was a great moment, a simple way to fix things that were happening.
Yeah, and so real quickly on that. So I, be military, you get fit, you do this, you do that, and I was, eating a lot of fruit. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, fruits and vegetables, let's get it on. Except that I was concentrating on the fruit that had the most sugar. Lo and behold, in my DNA results, there was a marker that I believe you referred to, the sweet tooth marker.
Yeah, sweet tooth
right?
marker.
The sweet tooth marker. Ugh. It told on me. So here my sugar was elevated on my blood test, right? And I'm like, I don't eat candy. I'm not, and I'm telling her, I don't eat this, but I only eat fruit, and I eat this, and she's like, oh.
What about
That's
what
it.
fruit? Yeah, what fruit are you eating? Yeah. Oh, this big plate of berries.
Yeah. The best nature has, right? And so, but back to the revelation of, wow, I thought I was taking care of myself by eating fruit, not understanding the properties of those fruits. And what I was doing was I was compounding my issues with healthy stuff. How in the world? So, anyway, all of that to say is that my experience is what allowed me to come to the conclusion that I have some clients that need that type of assistance, right? And, you can't tell physically. I mean, you see me now, I could actually have clogged arteries. So you can't tell all the time a condition of a person just by their physique. There could be some internal things that are just all wrong. But most of the time, doctors will tell you stay away from becoming obese, because the propensity of adding some more complications is there, right? So I say all that to say is that I knew enough to stay within height, weight guidances for my age, but I knew nothing about the implications of certain combinations of fruits. And I tell you, this fruit salad was delicious, but it was killing me on my sugar. Um, so thank you, first of all, for bringing that element of medicine into my life, but also for bringing it now to the public. And so you mentioned something. I want to talk about that. At first, you was here, Florida, but then I'm here in Texas in some of your commentary. So how did that evolve?
Well, it's something technical, really. In the United States, physicians, we are licensed and we can practice only in the places where we are licensed. So I have a special attachment for the Latin population, as I come from that group and I understand the group, and Texas was appealing for me because of the big group of Latin people that live there, very similar in some way to Florida. So I decided to get the license there to be able to extend my services in these areas too. Many leaders today are coming, women and gentlemen are coming from our Latin groups and from many other groups, right? And we need to understand, and you were saying this very well, we focus so much in teach leadership and tell people you need to be successful. And many times this means, okay, a big bank account and a nice car and a big, home and certifications. But I agree with you. If you don't have a physical and mental well-being, if you are not able to care about yourself, if you are not able to respect your body, to set boundaries, to recognize red flags, to identify when stress, this happy, good, positive stress is crossing the line to be burnout or depression, you are not sleeping well, you are not exercising, you are not going to your appointments with the doctor, whatever it is, you are isolating from friends and family. So if you don't pay attention to these other aspects of being successful, because successful is not just money, success means you are having a life that makes you proud, at least is how I define success for myself. So it will be very hard to keep producing the money, keep producing the certifications, keep getting more cars and more success if you don't invest in your body and your mind at the same time. And I feel that we need to change the rhetoric. We have today in this country, 70% of the population is overweight or obese. And this is something that we can control, we can avoid. We have the number one cause of mortality in the United States is cardiovascular disease, meaning that this is coming from high blood pressure that is not well controlled, lack of exercise, probably smoking, again, obesity, too much stress, things that can be prevent and control. And on the other side, in the mental health, we have 1 in 5 individuals today in the United States suffering from depression or anxiety or a mental health condition. Around 65 to 70% of individuals suffer from burnout. When you go to parental burnout, so those that are maybe not necessarily working, but are parents or are working and parents at the same time, right? Even more complex. They have around the 70% of burnout too. And last but not least, and probably the thing that motivates me more to keep going is 49,000 individuals died by suicide last year in this country. 49,000. If you don't have an idea of the magnitude of this, Monaco, which is a country, has 37,000 of individuals. So we are talking about more than a complete country dying by suicide. And again, depression, anxiety, burnout, and many of the reasons that take someone to decide to, die by suicide are really preventable and treatable. So don't focus only in the success that is, as I say always, chin, 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 money, but focus on being proud of yourself, being happy and healthy, and that's how everything else will happen in your life.
Absolutely. Now, as a person that, that number is staggering alone. But when you compare it to what looks like another country, that's basically wiped out Monaco, right? It wiped it out. And that is not only sad. I've spent a lot of time in suicide prevention as a coordinator, and as, unfortunately, a deliverer of bad news, as a person that would make those notifications. And so both sides are sad. Both of them are sad. Prevention is better, right? Because nothing's happened. But that we have to have those conversations is sad by itself, right? So you have this three layered approach that was just so beneficial to me. So, folks, if you want more information specific to what Dr. Z does, we'll make sure to put the link to her website in the comments. And as we're talking, or as I'm talking, you can feel free to throw that in there. But we'll make sure that it's in there for you to look around at her services and what she does. So now let's talk about the partnership. The partnership between Triad Leadership Solutions, which is a leadership development and consulting firm, is focused on the development of leaders from not only a educational standpoint, and believe me, there's plenty of education out there, but mostly from the application and implementation section of your life. What we try to do is get the information from your head to your heart, where it actually will make a difference. At that point, we develop you in a mentorship capacity or a annual coaching capacity, or an assessment. We do have an assessment that is specific to the way of being as a human. That is called the Being Profile, through Genesis out of Australia. And that group of people, oh, wow. The brain power at Genesis is just beyond words. So, but that's how I implement my leadership development. Obviously, I do have some opportunity to do trainings, either virtually or in person. And I also speak on Leadership Matters. Now, I knew that I could do that, right, from my perspective. But after having the experience with Dr. Z and knowing some of my clients' situations, it was a no-brainer to ask her to join forces with me on the development of leaders. I mentioned earlier, if you're in a hospital bed, you can't do nobody no good.
Yeah.
And
leaders,
I see that a lot.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to I want to say something that for me was very important through my work with you, right? And it's the fact that number one, you show your vulnerability during all the process, which normally as a doctor, I cannot share the information of my patients. You decided to do it, trying to educate the community. And I was surprised in such a good way, right? That you were showing your vulnerability, telling your story and explaining why some things were not necessarily great and why what you were doing to improve them. And that was the symbol of the real leader, right? The real leader is not that person that is a superhero, that doesn't have any problem, doesn't cry, doesn't have questions. Actually, the real leader, the amazing role model, is that person that can show vulnerability, can teach by example, can take care of himself so he can take care of others or she can take care of others, and that uh, has these clear values of what is important in life. And if we can start transmitting that, what we will have is stronger C-suites, stronger leaders, stronger business owners, hopefully stronger politicians and mentors and teachers and etc. and doctors, and our society will improve, and we will be the role models for our kids too. Because if we are not healthy people and we are not happy people, we cannot be great uh, co-workers or leaders in our works, but we cannot be good role models for our kids. And we cannot be really good parents for them either. And we are here with a responsibility in our professional life and in a family life and in the community life that we have. So I really appreciate what you are doing, Enrique, as a friend, as a partner, but especially as a kind of a fan, right, of the mission that you have and the message that you have. And yes, let's build the strong leaders, not only in their minds and in their pockets, but especially in their health and their hearts.
Absolutely. Now, I've seen great leaders fall apart because either their actual physical health was bad, but more importantly, their mental health was bad. So anxiety, depression, and all the different things that plague, all fear, overcome with fear, all of these stump leaders on a daily basis, and they don't have any way. Well, let me just say this. There's plenty of ways. They have not taken advantage of the many ways that you can address that. And that's why I wanted to bring that into the fold, right? A person that comes to me for leadership development, that maybe through conversation, coaching, mentoring, we actually uncover that there are more things than just their leadership development. They can get that in house. They can get that through Dr. Z and her offerings, and then we will really have a great leader at the other side, the other end, right? And because they are both equipped with the leadership knowledge and application, but also with the capacity physically, mentally, and emotionally to do that work that they have just developed. And so that is why we are teaming up to provide a more holistic leadership development process and opportunity for all those leaders out there where they can get that on the ready. And I'll tell you, once you go through Dr. Z's process and all that she provides, you'll probably want nothing to do with medicine because I know I don't. Hey, I know.
Well, it's medicine. It's
yeah,
still medicine, right? It's still
yeah.
medicine. I believe that is the right. It's the medicine that all of us will learn in medical school, and that has been so difficult to practice for many of us doctors because of the way that the system has been developing and has becoming more a business than really a service. And I want to piggyback in something that you mentioned, right? These high leaders that are suffering, and it's just as simple as just checking the news really in a daily or weekly basis, you will see the fancy and famous actors dying by suicide, or presidents from other countries, or first ministers resigning to their positions, athletes saying that they need to remove themselves from a competition because of their mental health or a physical health problem. So we don't need to really start using our imagination. The information is there, and more these individuals are sharing their stories of how much money they were able to collect, but what they were supposed to sacrifice or compromise in order to do that. And when they realize this, sometimes it's too late. So we should not wait so much to invest in our health, our emotional intelligence, in our all these qualities that we need to build a strong person. And we cannot depend on others to do that for us. This is a personal decision that we need to take. And is for me is I want to admit the way that Enrique you did is I am a victim of the system too, and I am a victim of being a workaholic and a high achiever, and really compromising my own well-being and my health in general. And I had to make changes in my life to make sure that I am doing things better, and that I am a better role model, not only for my patients, but also for my kids. So this is something that all of us, we need to work in ourselves, because the education that we receive and the example that we saw on TV and social media is not necessarily the healthy example of, or the real example of how people really achieve success. Success means that we are investing in our health first, and then in everything else.
Absolutely. So that is the gist of the partnership. But now we want to transition into strategic partnership itself. As a leadership developer, I would like to go through what you can consider, or how you can consider joining forces with someone you may know that provides a service that can complement what you already have for folks, that ends up being a good, basically a good road for both of you, right? Because the first word of strategic partnerships is strategy, right? You have to have a strategy around how you want to build a partnership, or a strategy around how you would like to see your, we say empresa, right? Your organization, your entrepreneurship journey, or whatever you may have, how you want to see that develop over time. And when I was thinking about strategic partnerships, I'll tell you that the initial thought was not health, right? It wasn't. It was only after experiencing that myself and saying, "Oh, okay, well, this has to be." If I think about anything, this has to be the way to do it. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, partnership makes all the difference. It does. So thank you for that. So in strategizing for partnerships, I will, uh, suggest, right? I'm not going to advise because I get paid for that. I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest.
Those are the things that I need to learn. See, there you
I'm,
are.
I'm going to suggest that you consider your capacity first. Do you have the capacity for partnership? Sometimes what we do as entrepreneurs is that we're great by ourselves, but we are poor together. And so what you want to do is evaluate, do an internal evaluation about your capacity for partnership, because it may be good for you to bring on somebody else, but you have to be equally beneficial to that person, right? Whether it is because business is growing, or it is because they are getting better because they know you. However that partnership develops, it has to be mutual benefit for both. And so when you start thinking about strategic partnership, you have to consider your value, obviously, but your value to that partner as well as that partner's value to you. What do you say about that?
I completely agree, right? And I again, I try to be as transparent as possible because I'm sure that there are many new entrepreneurs there and many not coming from the business world, like in my case, right? And we need to learn to respect ourselves, to understand our value, to sometimes it's hard, especially when you come from a servant position where you were not managing maybe the money, you were not the owner of a business, to try to understand the business concept of this and to be fair at the moment that you value yourself. If you don't value yourself, nobody else will value you. And then, yes, for a purpose of fairness and respect, mutual respect, to explain and to consider the value that you have for others and the value that others have for you in a way that this is not necessarily, I don't think that necessarily this will look a 50-50% in amounts, right, of money or etc. But they could be sometimes the fact that you are learning from the person that is collaborating with you and partner with you, and is the educational aspect that you are receiving from that person is more important than how much money you are getting, and what you are doing is getting money to that person, and that person is learning from you too. So partnership is not necessarily only about money, it's about collective growth that help both of them, individuals that are involved or the companies that are involved. And last but not least, I feel like trust and therefore values, they need to be together. You cannot be a partner, you cannot, or well, you can always be, you should not be a partner, you should never marry someone that you don't trust and someone that doesn't share the same values that you have, because you will have a very early divorce in this partnership as soon as things start happening, and you have to consider what is ethical and what is not, what is your threshold, and what is allowed in your own mind and in your own world. So yes, but I agree with you, the value of each individual has to be there and consider, and we need to start with ourselves, who we are,
Absolutely.
what do we want, what we are allowed or not allowed to do, and what fits our mission.
Absolutely. Now, on top of your capacity to be able to be a partner, you mentioned something and I think we said it early on, trust, right?
Trust.
So, in my, entrepreneurial, organizational development type stuff, there's in leadership, trust has to be something that needs to be upfront and always present. And I'll say that again, upfront and always present trust, if you're going to be a great leader. But if you're going to be a great partner, that has to be there as well, with the added value of knowledge. Trust, but verify, right? That's what that's how I was raised in the military. You could trust, but you better verify. And so when I was thinking about this partnership, there was already trust in the sense of I have seen your work. The verification came from my own process, right? So I trust and I verified, and I'm telling you that this addition to leadership development, it's not only a great thing for me and Triad Leadership Solutions, but for the leadership development community. I hope that from this partnership, someone else that has a leadership development program or company will consider bringing the medical element and and the well-being and the nutrition to their development
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah.
And
And with whoever is available, right? This is not
right,
go call Dr. C. I mean, if you, I'm always happy, but that's
right,
not the case. I believe that we have been procrastinating on including well-being as part of leadership. There is not leadership without well-being. The you know at least not long lasting, sustainable, high quality leadership without well being. And I believe that is something that needs to start being introduced in the mind of all of us since childhood. If you don't take care of your body, you don't take care of your heart, your mind, you will not be able to achieve your dreams. At some point, you will collapse, and it's not worth it to collapse.
So as we're talking about trust, you know, an element that has to be, I would say, present, right? It has to be there, it has to always be present. So, um, who do you trust? You know, and do you trust this person that you're about to get into partnership with? It has to be clear. Don't let there be any doubt, because if you're not certain when you begin the partnership, you won't be certain after it gets started. So trust has to be something that you must validate. If you're strategically partnering with someone, validate that trust, right? It's not good enough to just say, hey, I see what they're doing. Uh, I have a benefit that I actually, you know, I proved it, right? With me personally. So that's another element, right? So capacity for partnership is one, trust is the second. Now, once you've moved past trust, is education. Education, right? Both for for both strategic partners. How are you going to implement and execute this partnership, right? And so we have a certain way of doing that. You will have to develop that for yourself. If you need help in that regard, by all means, send us a message, and we can entertain that conversation. But execution of the partnership is so key to longevity in service. And that's what you want. You want a partnership that will stand the test of time, that will be beneficial to both in all aspects, right? Because sometimes, as you mentioned, Dr. Z, sometimes it's not all monetary. Sometimes it's experience. You get an experience, you get an education, you get uh, to be able to partner with somebody else that came along this whole process. And so your executability of that partnership is so important. And if you're not ready for that, then you need to take some time for it, right? So that would be the third key. So I want to give you an opportunity to maybe expound on any one of those three. But how do you see partnership, a good partnership, being executed?
I agree with everything that you mentioned. A couple of things, again, from a more naive person, right? That someone that is starting this journey on entrepreneurship and partnership, I will say, educate yourself. So you know your rights, you know the legality of the things that you are doing. Ask for help if you have any doubts. If your partner is not necessarily an expert in the legal aspect of what you are doing, get someone that will educate both of you. If you need someone that will be great giving advice regarding marketing or something like that, that your partner or yourself are not yet ready to manage, or just it's not your area of expertise, it's not what you are supposed to be doing, get a team of advisors or people that you trust outside this partnership that will collaborate with you and will add value to this proposal, so you know exactly what you are doing. Remember that every effort and every dream come with risks, and I believe that the risk is worth it to be taken under certain boundaries and with certain considerations. So be careful. Follow your heart in this and follow your passion, but do it also using your mind and making sure that you think about the pros and cons, and that you think about the strengths and the the challenges that this partnership could represent for you. I'm not sure if you agree with that,
Oh
Enrique.
yeah, and I just threw in all those things kind of in there, right?
Oh, there you are.
As we're talking about them, because you have to explore these. And now the legal clarity for partnership is something that must be explored.
Yeah,
There are some things that, especially when you start getting into the monetary side, how does that fan out? That your state laws, all these things need to be
yeah,
looked at and considered. But you mentioned mentorship, right?
yeah,
And we'll talk about that a little, because everybody that has gone down an entrepreneur route has experience in one thing or another, but you won't necessarily have experience in everything. And so when you're talking about mentorship, you're talking about those that have gone before you and the ability to have them influence your strategic partnerships. That is something that you want to allocate time for, because they will save you in a lot of senses, a lot of time and some money,
yeah.
right? And so you want to be able to uh, kind of learn from those that have already learned the lessons. And so if you are in a partnership and you're not including some mentorships from the aspect of that, then you may be looking at learning some lessons that you didn't need to.
Yes, which I have to admit that even having people, and you know how many times I bother you, right? Like I need advice. I am not very shy on asking for advice and help, but yeah, we need to be ready to go through difficult times. We need to have this mindset, this growth mindset, knowing that we will go up, but first we will go down a little and again and again. So this will be. Not necessarily as easy as we believe, but if we have the team, the people surrounding us, if we have the trust, if we have the knowledge, if we are curious, right, if we have grit, uh, we will be able to keep growing. But again, that goes back to, I mean, something that I will say totally in a transparent way is like I trust Enrique so much. I mean, we know each other for so long, and I trust Enrique so much. It's like I know that he is true. Uh, I know that during this partnership, I still will get the friend and the mentor in this combination, right? And I will still keep learning. So try to be close to someone that inspires you respect and inspires you the trust, and also that that you kind of you feel like, oh my gosh, that person, I like to be like that person in that area, right? I like that person, and doesn't have to be only in the professional aspect. I believe that we have been lucky enough to know about our families, and even if we were never able to get together physically, but we know our families. We know what's happening, when we don't have the white coat or the microphone in front, and when we are human beings, and get to know the human being, because it's very difficult to be a good doctor if you are not a good person. It's very difficult to be a good entrepreneur, a good leader, a good business person if you are not a good human being. So I feel like those are, for me, that is number one priority, to partner with a good human being.
Oh, thank you. And I feel the same way with you. Obviously, from a patient, I obviously trust you with a whole lot of stuff. But when you're talking about strategic partnership, and we covered, the capacity for partnership, the trust, executability of that partnership, education, legal, mentorship. There are a slew of other things that can be considered and should be considered when you're talking about partnerships. But longevity, right? How long is this for? Is it short term? Is it for a period of time? Is this something that you want to last 100 years? I was looking at a video of a company out of Japan, more than 100. No, more than 100 years, almost 1,000 years.
Oh my goodness,
These
that's awesome.
people have been going f- more longer than the U.S. been around, right? So, you know, they had a strategy to keep this in the family for ages, and they've done it, right? So the longevity of the partnership and what you want as an outcome of the partnership. From my perspective as the leadership developer, my desire is for a leader to be not only fully equipped with the knowledge to execute leadership, but with the ability to execute life as a leader. And so it is very important to me for leaders to consider their physical aspect of leadership, right? I've said this 2 or 3 times already. You can't lead well from a hospital bed, and you won't really put too much, I would say, money on that until you're there. I just said, if I've seen any leader come to their senses, it's at the hospital bed when I've been trying to keep them off of it. But
Why that happened, I have no idea. But that there are even famous individuals sharing their stories in the book in their books, and the story starts like, after I fell down, after I crashed my car because I was very tired, after I got cancer, then I realized I have to
mhm,
change my life. We are human beings. In theory, we are the smarter animals in this world, right? We belong to that category. So how is that we cannot learn those things from others? I include myself on that one. I didn't learn from others either. But we need to change this rhetoric, and we need to start learning, because it's too painful to suffer from diseases and conditions that really affect not only us and our jobs, but they affect your complete family, and in some cases the community, right? Depending of what is your role. So we need to understand that, yeah, we don't need to crash our car to ask for help. We can ask
right.
for help before that.
Absolutely. Now, folks, we're up on our hour. And so I hope that this conversation, not only about the actual partnership between Triad Leadership Solutions and Dr. Z and Virtual Wellbeing MD, but also the information we shared about strategic partnerships. I hope that that information has been beneficial to you. If you are looking for leadership development, I have put our Triad's website on there. But if you're also looking to extend that leadership development into your well-being, and I'll tell you, take care of that first. Uh, Dr. Z, she has also put her link to Virtual Wellbeing MD on the comments. Take a look, consider it for yourself. I tell you that you will be not only a better person for considering your help first, but you'll be a much more better leader when you can come to your work site fully ready to lead. And then if you need education on that aspect or help in that aspect, then that's where I come in. But folks, I hope that the strategic partnership session has been good for you. Thank you, Martin, for joining us all the way from Europe. I appreciate you coming in and being with us, and all of those that have been with us, Jacobo and uh, Jeannie and
Jenny.
Jenny. Let me see who else. Jenny, Michael, Fati. Um, yeah, and so and all of you other, because I see some that don't show up,
Yeah.
but all of you, thank you for being with us today. Miriam, thank you so much for the partnership and for sharing this hour with me and those listening and viewing today.
Thank you so much. And we together will love to help you and your groups and your people to get better and to be able to enjoy life and enjoy success in the way that all of us we deserve.
And if, hey, one last thing, if you do have, I saw somebody that was mentioning about a conference. If you would like either of us to speak at a conference or both of us together about this partnership, just feel free to DM us and we'll consider that. But have a wonderful rest of the day and soon to be weekend. We'll see each other tomorrow on Aloha Friday Live, and bless you all.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Take care.